You know, getting old. It's not so bad. As Chevalier said, old age doesn't seem so bad when you consider the alternative. But the older I get, the more I think about the arrogance of youth. I've discussed that with you before. Many of you are young, and many of you are almost as arrogant as I. That's how it always gets me crazy when you get upset about how arrogant I am, and then I look at you, and you're even more arrogant than I am, and you're dumber than I am, and you're more arrogant about that. Well, the reason that I mention it is there's a group of young men and one not so old man, not so young man, who have formed a comic company called Image Comics. Now, the people in this group, there's 6 of them, I believe. Actually, there's 7, Ellison. And each one is the boss. There's Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson and Mark Silvestri and a few others. And Jim Valentino is the old guy of the bunch. I think he's, gee, I don't know, maybe he's in his 40s. The others, I think, have all just reached puberty. And they're making millions and millions of dollars. I think that it's very fine that they're doing this, because in the history of comic books, the major companies always ripped off the artists, always kept them poor, killed them with deadlines. They didn't own their own properties. All they were beanfield hands. So here are these guys who've taken the bull by the horns, to coin a brand new phrase, and they're making themselves a terrific big living. The only problem with it is they really don't know squat. They're dumb. In all the gin joints in all the world, a sour apple like you had to walk in, Ellison. What are you ashamed of yourself? Just because you never got to be a rock star like Rob Liefeld? I saw Rob Liefeld in the lobby at the San Diego Comic-Con. Didn't you see him? He had a lot of pretty young girls following him. He had a brush cut. He was wearing those jeans that he did the ad. He made millions on the jeans. He's working for Spielberg now. What's the matter with you? Sour grapes? But they're so arrogant because they're making so much money, they don't care. They go ahead and they act in the way that children act without being responsible. For instance, there's a guy named, was it Todd McFarlane who did it, or Jim Lee? I think it was Todd McFarlane. He had all the pages of one of the comics that he does. This is a comic called Spawn, quite a good comic in terms of visuals. And he laid them all out, and he invited some people into his studio, and he said, look, and he shuffled them. He said, look, you can shuffle them any way you want, and they still make sense. Yeah, they still make sense if they didn't make sense to begin with. Come on, Ellison, be real. William Burroughs did the same thing. Took a novel, threw it up in the air, reformed it. It's art. Art, Ellison. And that's the problem. These guys are pretty good artists, but they're awful storytellers. And they're too arrogant to know that. They just don't know any better. They're just young, and they don't care. Money can only take you so far. Well, I don't know. They're making so much money. What are you, sour grapes, Ellison? You don't like how much money they're making? You want them to stay beanfield hands? And when the vogue passes, then you got to have something to back it up. And if you're dumb as ditch water to begin with, you wind up dumb at the end, too, but broke. The nice thing about doing these commentaries is that I can indulge my arrested adolescent behavior. The other nice thing is that the people at the Sci-Fi Channel, now you'll notice I actually use the phrase sci-fi. Most of the time my tongue gets tangled and I can't do it. But they're very nice to me. They almost never tell me what to say or how to say it. Occasionally they'll kill a commentary or two, but for the most part they let me go my own way. However, recently they got a couple of letters. They got a letter from a young man, a preteen, in Enid, Oklahoma. They got another one from another young boy in Washington, D.C. And these letters were sent to the network for me, and they responded to a commentary I had done some while ago on trading cards. I'm a collector of trading cards, have been for years and years. I have a large collection, and I enjoy them. And these kids said in these letters that they had bought a certain box of trading cards. And the kids said it was a 180-card set, and out of 360 cards, they had not been able to make a set. And these boxes are not inexpensive, folks. These boxes can cost anywhere from, I mean, if you get them at a bargain price, say $25, $30, but usually they're up around $45, even $50 for hot ones with a lot of prism cards in it. But one assumes if one buys a box of cards with a 180 run, that one will get one complete set, at least. Well, these kids wrote and said the series that they had bought was from Skybox. And Skybox had put out their latest Marvel Universe set. This is Marvel Universe 4. This is the 4th series of Marvel Universe cards that have been done. And in this box, they said they had missed as many as 60 cards. So I went out and I bought some boxes. And I want to show you exactly what happened. I managed to get that's duplicates. What we're talking about here in this Skybox set was out of 360 cards, I got 239 duplicates. I was missing 60 cards. Now this was not just here. I checked with dealers around the country, and I found 4 others who said the same thing. So I called Skybox. Now let me stop for a second. Every company that I've talked to, I've asked them how they collate, because the whole secret is in collation. How do they get the cards in so that you get a decent run? They won't tell you. Apparently the biggest secret in trading cards is not who's going to do what product or how they get a card etched or where chromium comes from. It's how do you do the collation. The collation is the key. And they have this 800 number, which I'm going to give you now. If you buy any Skybox cards and you don't get enough of what you need, you can call 1-800-424-6735. That's 1-800-424-6735. Well, the whole thing with comic cards right now is that there has been an enormous implosion in the sports card market. So all those people who were over there in the sports cards, finding they were losing money, have now gotten into comic cards. And they do not understand that there is a different mentality among comic collectors than there is among sports card collectors. And as a result, they take, I feel, a very arrogant attitude about whether you get a complete run or not. Now, this may be a small thing by comparison to starvation of children in Somalia, by comparison to the rise of fascism and skinheads. Absolutely. But we're not talking about that right now. What we're talking about is trusting kids, naive kids, young kids, going in and plunking down their money, however much they may get, however much they may earn, to get what they think is going to be a box of cards with their favorite comic character on it. And they don't get it. Is it not a tragedy that they're missing 1 out of 180? That's a tragedy. Because kids trust. And when you abuse that trust, somebody has to say, stop it. Like a thunder crack, we have had our first little seismic problem on this show. My commentaries about women writing in the field have naturally brought some interesting comments. And more interestingly than anything else is that all of the comments are from women, about women. In the process, we showed a number of books. Many of them, published by Baen Books, were written by Mercedes Lackey in collaboration with another woman. It was a daisy chain of writers who came off Mercedes Lackey's books. Now, when we did a follow-up, this letter was read on the follow-up to my initial comments in May. This one was done in June 27th, on the June 27th broadcast. And this letter was written by a very well-known, well-established, highly credentialed woman writer who was talking about not being able to say anything about other women who wrote badly because she didn't want to make any missteps in the name of sisterhood. And she asked that her identity be kept secret. And it was a very intelligent letter. My producer, in editing for time, because I ran over, I was shooting my mouth off too long, left out a very significant paragraph. The paragraph that was left out was this: the risk of being churlish, the complaints have to be taken another few steps. A good many of these saccharine collaborations are package deals. The names I name, because I've heard them speak with great pride of their activities, are Bill Fawcett and Jim Baen, both of whom have unctuous contempt for the authors they work with and the reader consumers who buy their books. Fawcett thinks he's doing everyone a favor when he gets a lesser-known writer to flesh out a better-known writer's second-rate outline. Baen's been a gimmick freak since he hit New York in the 70s. Bill and Jim have waxed eloquent that this woman, in doing an anthology, had wasted too much time trying to get good stories and good writers. They insisted the best way to milk the cash cow was not to worry about quality. Superficial fantasies with bright, shiny people sold better than anything serious or thoughtful. Now, this is the opinion of a very highly respected writer. And thereafter, into Dick Crew Productions, the producers of this show, came a fax letter from Mercedes Lackey. It said, on the broadcast of June 27th, Harlan Ellison quoted extensively from a letter whose author he would not reveal. I would very much like to know who wrote that letter. Let me pause. You could put bamboo slivers under my fingernails, folks. You will never learn where I get my information if the person asks me not to. That is sacrosanct. It's as if this is truly the genuine article, and it was. My publisher's colleagues and I just want to know whose hand is holding the dagger that just got shoved in my back. Well, first of all, there was no dagger shoved in anybody's back. It was a serious comment about work. Not people, work. Not the writers, but the writing. And if we cannot be open to this kind of criticism, what are we? Some sort of gods living on an Olympian mountaintop? The weirdest part is these statements seem based on the completely unfounded assumption that I have literary aspirations. It's rather like slamming Beatrix Potter for not writing like Franz Kafka. No, in fact, you were not slammed for having literary aspirations. You were slammed for writing badly. That's exactly what it was. I called Mercedes Lackey, and she's probably watching this right now, and I said to her, send me a statement, if you will, expressing your viewpoint. And this is what she wrote. The collaborations that my proteges and I have done have all been with the purpose of combining a leg up on the marketplace with acquiring the few tools that I can give them. We each put in an equal amount of work. The idea is that after a book, 2 at the most, they are to go out and continue developing their own voices and careers. In the case of Holly Lyle, at least, this succeeded. She won the Compton Crook Award this year and is up for the Campbell Award, all on the basis of her own book, Fire in the Mist. I have hope for all the others. Now, that is what Mercedes Lackey says. Subsequent to this, and the circulation through the genre and on computer bulletin boards of the feedback I got a letter from Carolyn Cherry. Now, let me assure Mercedes Lackey and everyone else that Carolyn Cherry was not the writer of the original letter. No, you must look somewhere else for your alleged assassin. But Carolyn Cherry wrote this, and you all know who C.J. Cherry is. Her books are award winners: Hugo's, Nebula's, beyond reproach. A brilliant writer, and in fact, I believe someone who helped Mercedes Lackey. Harlan, we don't yet get the SF channel in our area, but we've heard about it secondhand and seen the much-quoted clip where you talk about the quality of SF turned out by female writers. SF looked to a sudden influx of women writers as talent who would, in their shiny new technological sophistication and supposed innate sensitivity, produce a golden age of literate, character-driven SF. SF got instead a glut of wish-fulfillment motivation, shallow characterization, and plots that rely on salute-the-cause political correctness in place of internal logic. We got technologically and historically illiterate books by women determined to recast the age of impalements, brandings, peasants, and overlords as some lost golden age, and determined to dismiss the future as a world they can't possibly comprehend. Right on, Harlan, right between the eyes. We try to do an honest job on this show. I'm very conscientious about it. I care about it. If every once in a while we savage someone, if every once in a while we gore someone, understand that we're not goring the person. It's the work. We're talking about the work. Always the work. If you take personal umbrage, you must understand that writers have to be able to handle it. And if you can't handle a little honest criticism, and I hope I've been fair in going over this for the 3rd time, if you can't handle it, there's always planting trees on a hillside to serve the commonweal.